Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second installment of the Cal High Sports CIF State Bowl Board. This is Mark Tennis. Paul Meiskens is recording this for us. Thanks, Paul. My wife's classroom was used last week. I'm using my office this week. My wife's classroom has a little bit bigger board, so I'll go back to it next week. Her classroom was obviously closed this week for Thanksgiving break. Happy holidays to everybody. And again, this is our second edition. This bowl board is meant as an explanation for people to help them understand the new CIF state bowl system with all these different games and all these different divisions. To review what we went over last week, first of all, do not consider these rankings on the board. They're not going to be seeding the team. They're not going to be ranking the teams when the commissioners meet on December the 6th. What they're going to be doing is placing the teams into various different bowl game divisions. That's number one. And there's a couple other things to keep in mind. Number two, when they meet on December the 6th, they're going to be looking at the open divisions first. So when they get together, they're going to first of all choose who's in the open division. When we all know if De La Salle wins their 24th straight section title and Centennial and Bosco the winner of that game the night before, that's going to be your open division game. Pretty obvious, pretty easy selection. As mentioned last week, the next thing they're going to do is select the open division small games, and that's going to be the next two teams on the board that have enrollments of 1,250 or less. So you're going to start with Central Catholic in the north, Marin Catholic in the north, then they're going to look at Sierra Canyon in the south, and Mater Dei Catholic in the south as well. So what that's going to do is there's all kinds of possibilities right off the bat. What happens, for example, if Central Catholic doesn't win? It's possible they won't win their section title. There are two other 12-0 teams in their bracket. Oakdale's in their bracket, which is also very good. If they don't win, then the next teams in that Sac Joaquin section bracket are not eligible for the small schools open division, so everything slides down. And then you go to Marin Catholic. Well, what happens if Marin Catholic doesn't win? If Cardinal Newman doesn't win? Those are the two favorites in that North Coast section bracket. But if they don't win, then it keeps falling down lower and lower. McClymonds would be eligible for the small schools open division. Then you look over in the south, and you have Sierra Canyon. It's possible they might not win their division because San Marino's very good. There's some other good teams in their division. Actually, I don't think San Marino's in their division, but San Marino's eligible for the small schools open division, so keep that in mind. But Sierra Canyon might not win their division. There's some other good teams in there. Mater Dei Catholic might not win. So the lower you get, the harder it is for the CIF to find open division candidates. A team to watch for in the South also is Cathedral of Los Angeles, which is in the same bracket as, La Serna here. And Cathedral of Los Angeles is 11-1. They would be eligible if they somehow win that division in the southern section. They become a candidate for that small schools open division. Watch out for them. So that's what they'll do second, is pick the small schools open division. Then they'll start selecting the teams based on the various different divisions and the various different games. As you can see in the north, I'm going to go over some of the teams now that are new in the north, and also look at some of the teams in each division. I've listed Elk Grove as well as Folsom in the Sac Joaquin section, Division 1 slot below De La Salle. Elk Grove has just been really impressive this year, and these two have been eyeing each other for 2 months or longer, and this could be a mammoth game next week if they both win this week. So Elk Grove definitely deserves to be on the board. And at this point, it's also important to mention there's a lot of teams that are not on the board that are very good. These are not rankings. So if people don't see their school on here, it doesn't mean we don't think they're any good. It just means they're not in a certain slotted position within their section. These are all schools that have been selected based on where they are and what section playoff they're in. Doesn't mean that these are not rankings. So if your school's not on here, it doesn't mean we don't think your team was any good. That's just the system that we have in place, and we're trying to show people how fluid and how active and how many changes one loss or one result can have on the entire board. It's also important to note that the CIF will be voting on the entire board at the same time at the end of the meeting. They're not going to pick game by game. They're not going to come in and pick the open, then the open division small, and then let's do this game here, then let's do this game here. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to vote on all of the games in one slate not game by game. That's an important distinction. They don't want to have to go back and mess around. So they're going to look at the whole board when they vote on this. So that's why we decided to do it in a board format as well. Going closer into the north now. We just talked about Folsom and Elk Grove. If you look further down on the list, we still have Bellarmine and St. Francis actually playing each other in the D1A game. That may or may not happen. I don't know how the CIF is going to respond to rematches in these games. My guess is they'll probably try to avoid them where they can, unless it really makes the most sense for the entire board. That's how we have it now, just based on the rankings. If you look down here, we have Rockland with an asterisk. That means they're new this week. Rockland has replaced Grant of Sacramento on the board. They're now the leading contender in the Sac Joaquin section Division 2, just because they have wins over two of the other semifinalists. So that's why Rockland's in that slot. But that's a wide open bracket. Any one of those four teams could conceivably win. Watch out for Del Oro, which is 6-6. If you go down further, you have Sonora, which has replaced Capital Christian of Sacramento in D4AA. And then you have Sierra Manteca, which is in D5AA. They have replaced Lathrop in that division as the front runner. Their championship games are coming up this week as well. So we'll have some teams actually becoming eligible for these games this weekend. And you go down to the bottom and you have East Nicholas with the asterisk. They have replaced Winters for the northern section. Now I've put East Nicholas at the bottom. They're northern section Division 4. Fall River is actually northern section Division 5, but Fall River has a head-to-head win over East Nicholas. Fall River is playing Portola in that section championship this Wednesday night. So, and Portola is undefeated, so that could easily be Portola in that slot. Mission of San Francisco is playing in the Turkey Day game on Thanksgiving Day, so they will be done this week. And McClymonds will be done this week in the Oakland section. They're playing Fremont in the Silver Bowl championship. Now, if you look at the bottom, the CIF is very closely monitoring these games in the northern section and the Turkey Day game, because they're really trying to figure out who's going to play who in the first game, which is a play-in game. There's 26 teams on the north, 25 teams in the south, so they have to have a play-in game in the north to make it 25 and 25. So what they're trying to look at all kinds of different possibilities. One thing I know they don't want to have is a school like Fall River or Portola way up in the northern section having to travel down and playing Stone Ridge Christian and Merced, which would be a 6-hour trip. So we know they're not going to want to do that. So Stone Ridge Christian is a great team. They have 9 straight shutouts right now, a great storyline developing in the Merced County area. I still think they're probably going to be in that play-in game because their loss was to Ripon Christian. Some people have Mission actually being at that low in the play-in game. I think Mission is a little better than that. They have a win over Ignacio Valley. I think they're a little better than some of the teams really at the bottom. And Fall River, as I mentioned, has a win over East Nicholas. So I would project the play-in game to be Stone Ridge Christian against East Nicholas. But East Nicholas is playing Williams, et cetera, et cetera. Mission is very low ranked in the computers, and San Francisco is not that great in football. But I do think they're better than the very bottom of the bottom 2 divisions of the northern section and the bottom of the south. I think they're a little stronger than that. That's my hunch after following it for a long time. They've fallen, but I don't think they've fallen that far. I think they should be a little bit higher. So that's the looking at the north board a little closer. You look at the south board a little bit closer this week, and you see we've got some new teams. Serrano of Phelan is in here. Phelan is in here at 10-2. That's a one loss is on the field to Norco, very impressive. They replace Palm Springs, which was in that spot in the Eastern Division of the southern section. Then you go down to Chavez of Delano. They have replaced Central Valley Christian from the Central section. I believe that's Central section Division 4. And then you have Coronado, which replaced La Jolla Country Day from the San Diego section Division 5. And that's because they beat them. So congratulations to the Islanders for that big win. So that's how the south board. Again, we mentioned last week the possibility of a rematch between Camarillo and Calabasas, which would be great. They're a little bit further apart in the rankings. I'm not sure that will happen. Another thing to look at the South board is look at Ridgeview here, 11-0. They're the top team in the Central section. And look across to AA. They were in the same division as Clovis. Now they are, the Central section's teams 1, 3, and 5 go to the north. 2, 4, and 6 go to the south. So if there's a chance the CIF could perhaps set it up where Ridgeview and Clovis were in the same state bowl division, then potentially if they both won their regional games, they would play each other for a state title, and also decide who's really the best team in the Central section this year. And there could be some interest in that, I would say, in the Central section if that were to happen. And I think you might see that if there's a way Clovis and Ridgeview are in the same division, I think that might happen. I think there's a good chance that'll happen. Another thing to look at in the South is Oceanside down here. Oceanside has really struggled this year. They're 7-4. They're coming on lately, but this is a great program that has won 12 multiple state championships, multiple section championships, and there they are sitting down there at D4A. Yes, they maybe should be that low because of their ranking and all kinds of other things. This is Oceanside. Are they really going to want Oceanside down here in Division 4AA opposite a Sonora or Hanford or even Hillmar or opposite some of these teams? I just think there might be a push for Oceanside to be a little bit higher just because of the level of the program, what they've done over the years. To have them that low on the board, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't jive. It just doesn't make sense. So, I think they might be a little bit higher than that if they win their section title. The other thing to look at in the South is Belmont of Los Angeles, which is still here at 12-0. That's a school of well over 3,000 students. So are they going to be having to play a real tiny school like a Notre Dame Riverside or Grace Brethren? I could see Belmont being with such a big school enrollment-wise that they could come up and maybe play a Garden Grove instead, which maybe makes a little bit more sense in a lot of different ways, that Belmont would come up a couple spots. So then the other thing in the South is here at the bottom, you've got the Central sections schools, Chavez and Kennedy, and you've got the San Diego section. That's a big difference in travel if you're going from Coronado to Delano or vice versa, and that's going to be a long trip. But I don't know if the CIF really has a way around that long trip. That long trip may have to stay, because the alternatives would be to move one of those teams to play a Grace Brethren or a Notre Dame Riverside or Linfield. I don't want to discount Linfield in this division. They're very good. They played Notre Dame. It was a close game, so I don't want to discount them too much. But I don't think you want to competitively do that. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get around that long trip at the bottom of the SoCal board. So that's basically where we have it as we look at it. Hopefully you're able to look at some of the teams. Maybe Paul just pan in a little bit here one more time for the South board so people can see their school, where they're located. Go on down the board. You can see all the different teams, where we have them slotted to play and what division they're going to play in. And then cross over to the North board and see what the teams are located there. You can see how it goes down the list. And all the different variations, and there's the number beside them, the 4AA, the 4A, the 5AA, the 5AA, etc., and on down the line. So good luck to all those teams playing for section championships this week, and we'll see you next week on the next edition of the Cal High Sports CIF Bowl Board. Thank you.